Imagine girls that have abused you get to listen to a backlog of extremely confidential sexual assault on a BlackBerry. And then they bring around men who are on that backlog that you haven't seen and don't remember and make them talk to you. And they have been stalking you since Denver, Colorado, not more Oswego, and making a game out of it called Extraordinary. What would you do? They call it eating the dinosaur or Mad Men. They also put spy cams in your TV and invest in eavesdropping software. They impersonate you, call your family and your friends, and destroy your entire career. Not to mention move in next door, down the road, and contact your coworkers. And basically, since you don't have a memory before 2009, they do, and you've met them, for example, in Oswego, New York, and don't remember them, they start this thing where they start to wear clothing. For example, this young woman named Alicia, who actually was under the casita I was living in, was wearing the same dress I wore in 7th grade. This girl lived with Sean Scripp, Meg Elkins, and Dave Nardone in Rochester, New York, when I was in college, I believe, in a brown house out at a porch. Now, when I live alone, they break into my house, and unfortunately, I am what you would call tap-outable. Megan gets mad when I wake up when she punches me in the face while I'm sleeping, and in Denver, Colorado, would say that someone was abusing her, so I would let her sleep on my couch. Obviously, that's the wrong thing to do, I guess. And they have been following me around all over Arizona because I'm within reach. And researched where I came from. And apparently, while I was in Mexico, I spent a lot of time in Elliott. And spent a lot of time in Oswego, which I didn't remember either. I didn't remember Dave Nardone at Bepo. I didn't remember Meg Elkins at the Shed. I didn't remember a lot of the things that they are now making a new story about. Meg Elkins always said that she had a pre-existing condition and then stole my Adderall. I never asked her what that was. All of them are very smart, but unfortunately, they're smart and like to hate me. And put spy cams in my TV. And somehow can eavesdrop on every conversation I have. And unfortunately, in New Mexico, apparently have every recording from our research town, because I grew up in a research area and I've gone through my entire life. When you grow up in a research area, the recordings are not a television show, and they're not for women who are bullying you to go through again. They're also not to go through so that they can break down your body. But I now have more than just a few years missing. And in Washington, someone has been very good at erasing. And after I spent a lot of time working there, and everyone got into a coup, my life was completely destroyed. They had moved in next door. And when I first got here, they had a Venetian blind up, but I also started throwing dead bodies at me. I've had fake police officers, I've had fake FBI agents, I've had real ones. Most of them have not helped me at all. Some have. My ex-boyfriend used to threaten me with the police all the time and has kidnapped me and brought me to the woods with some of them. I'm doing nothing wrong at all. Unfortunately, though, if you hear police officers having sex with prostitutes in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, or Kittery, you do prepare to die. And I can't control my ears, but someone else decided to. And when you have specialized hearing because something has happened to you, and someone finds a way to hack or abuse your hearing aids, which I think half of the retirement community in America is now terrified of, and I can say that I would definitely write every single deaf school in America a letter about, because I would be more than just enraged if my child had to listen to what I've had to forcibly be exposed to because of someone who is so very, very sick. Because my child was given the gift of hearing again, and someone who has no ability to respect not only space, but privacy, or even understand what they are forcing someone to be exposed to every single day. And they're also allowing someone to listen to a child through their own ears. Because many of our aids are not only Bluetooth hackable, they are available with the right and wrong people. So now that I have listened and been exposed to these things because of this eavesdropping technology, some German hearing aids are extremely good, but also many of the hearing aids that we use are connected to our phones. And a clock hack ruined my life. I stopped texting actually after that. But someone continued texting and impersonating me for I think 8 years. Now I know. I can't look at it, but if you switch from an iPhone to a Samsung, apparently someone else will text for you. And since when I was in high school, they called it getting engraved. I was severely bullied and impersonated by a bunch of women who were then girls, and now apparently will do it again. It turned an entire town against me. It was my first phone. Not only did I not know what was going on, I was then attacked by adults and very confused about why I was being attacked by my own friends. This made me afraid of teenagers probably for the rest of my life. The text codes that are used for the government, for emergency services, and for research, along with educational codes and many other things, are all very different. And hacking a phone is one thing, but impersonating someone so you know where they are and telling them to come meet you and kidnapping them is something I've already experienced. But I've had someone put me into a medicated coma, rape me, and take photos and send it out to probably the entire school. And I'm guessing that's happened a lot since I've gotten to Tucson. I've also been very exposed to suicide betting. And let me tell you, those kind of text messages, photos, videos, etc., are very, very helpful when trying to force teenagers to kill themselves, which was a task force at one time I was part of on YouTube and Facebook. Because of what happened to me in high school, it was something I was very passionate about. Because I've been around people who do not stop, have no limits, and need to be right to the point where you have to die. They don't talk to you about it. They don't have a conversation. And from what I've had to experience, everything has been very scripted. When I listen to someone writing a script for a conversation, it is very frustrating for me because after being delayed and humiliated by my hearing problems and being told I am obnoxious and humiliating and knowing that I talk too loud and I say what to every single thing, and knowing that I'm saying that because I'm desperate to know what is happening and I can't hear, or I am having a hard time processing information. And that was the beginning. And hearing jokes about Helen Keller or Mr. Holland's Opus, even if it was in code, were not funny to me. And when I got my hearing back fully, because surround sound has always been a problem, I didn't tell anyone because I thought it was a miracle. Because I did not want someone to take what I finally had back because they would think it was funny. Because that is exactly what happened. Because for my entire life, I could hear maybe part of the song, a little bit of the music and the rhythm. And for the first time, I could hear the whole thing, which I find incredibly strange since I know so many people who love music so much. And music was what got me through some of the most horrific experiences that involve torture and sound in my life. There's something that is called scared to death. And I went through it when I was younger. And when I was exposed to it when I went home, I knew it immediately because it is a sound and a waterfall of sound that makes you literally think you will fall over and die because you are so terrified. And after doing the work that I had done and seeing the things that I had seen, the sounds that I was being forced to listen to again or were being replayed, you would fall down and die or want to, having to relive them. Joking about things like Schindler's List because I said I hadn't done enough or finished what I was doing wasn't funny to me. Neither was something like genocide or a work camp. But there were coins involved. Also taking people's children away from them. There is a scene in that movie where they say, "Wave goodbye, children," when they're allowed to take a shower. And they put all the children on a truck. And the women are just done showering, and they come out, and their children are taken from them. It may apply to this a little more than people know. I have been braided in the shower viciously, probably since Denver on and off, but if someone can tell me what color my underwear is while I walk down the street in Kittery without me telling them, or what color my shit is before I stand up off the toilet in Elliott in the house that I grew up in, then that's what they're using technology for at that time. And if someone's mad because I have body armor on, and they would rather use me for some kind of initiation, which, once again, I must just really point out, is never a really good idea to do near a large military base, nuclear power plant, or let's just say colleges in general. But hazing has become really, really popular lately. Unfortunately, I got into a group that liked to improve the world around it. So if you got into this community, you had to do something drastic. But it wasn't to cleanse a community of some kind of person or whatever it was that you're doing now. It was the opposite. So I saw a lot of things that I actually didn't think could happen. So then I go back to a place where I forgot existed, or they've been doing the opposite. Unfortunately, though, when you grow up in research, you are constantly recorded. And when you are around people who are obsessed with humiliating you, that is the gold. And I forgot that when someone calls you rape girl, you're supposed to accept it. So I didn't. Or when someone tells you that you deserve it. When someone called the fucking Denver groper or the Uber rapist attacks you, you don't accept it. And you're welcome, Uber. That was really easy to repair your reputation back then. But when someone just needs a card for something like Zipcard, and they're grabbing random people in the community and attacking them in the back of a car, the community starts to tip the cars over because they don't want their kid to be attacked in the back of a car on the way home from school. Anyway, it does make everyone freak out. I learned that when I was younger. So it also makes people want to protect themselves, their family, and their children. And when they can't, people make really big mistakes at work. Like, for example, a nuclear power plant, a school, a dog food plant, or in the sewer, who knows where, a place where large machinery is used, a construction site, because they're staying up late trying to protect themselves or their children from being hurt, which is the reason I would never have a child, unfortunately. It's hard enough for me because I can't protect myself. If I ever had a child, I would never sleep again. And it would drive me insane because of what is being done right now. We noticed it in Denver because when people went to sleep, they would be tortured at night. I had already been a victim of things like that, and often when people have that happen, it's hard to go to sleep at night. And it's also hard to be inside. So this has been very, very difficult. Because I've been surrounded every single night, which also happened to me in high school. I would rather walk from one side of the country to the other than sit inside at night while a bunch of people harass me. Unfortunately, they call it, I guess, the rounder verse and talk about it on NPR, so it's okay. Unfortunately, I've also lost respect for NPR, which I used to love. But there's a lot of things about the news that I know I can't expect. I just really hope that a lot of the horrible things that happen in this country aren't made for the story, that you actually find the story. Because we're going way downhill, and I don't want to sing Tailspin songs anymore. I think the Rescue Rangers went on vacation. And when someone told me 1 in 5 will survive influenza, I should have given up. But in Oswego, New York, 5 girls stayed in a tank for SARS testing. And that was also a time when there was a massive amount of sexual abuse and SARS and an accident. And 4 of those girls had just disappeared or died. And I was heartbroken already. And I don't like the flu. Because when I worked with homeless kids, they didn't get medication and it changes your brain chemistry. Anyway, I don't like that I put time into public health because it was so important to me, and someone really found a way to literally go through every single clinical trial or test or research whatever thing I did and reverse it or destroy it or make it a joke. Because in Syracuse, New York, when you talk about skin grafting. I don't think it's very funny when you have to do that much skin grafting. But it's amazing when you can put 40 different types of trees together. Luckily, that's bark. But when someone's joking about wearing my skin suit, it's hard enough when you get that much damage done and have to look at your skin and remind yourself it's not a scar. And someone wants to wear it like a jacket. But that's what I've been surrounded by. It's more than just bullying, obviously. But it's an epic level of pain that I never knew I would live up to. When your therapist says her last client sawed his head almost completely off, and you're trying to do the right thing, go to therapy after having to put up with bullshit no one should have to see, and then live in the same apartment that you shouldn't be gutted on a mattress in. I guess that's something you should expect, but you start digging a hole you can't get out of because you can't leave. It's very strange, though, when you try to leave. Someone will call the police or they'll pour gasoline on your car. And the radio in your car, specialist radio, which everyone knows is there but you, tells you to go to the dump at 11 o'clock at night and get in the incinerator. Or what was the other one? Well, who's going to be the FBI agent today, Audrey or Nick, at today? Or just clips of horrible things and interview with a vampire. Or they're waiting for you at the Days Inn and you want to know if they have 100 honey buns for you to eat or if they're just going to try to murder you. Because the fact that you lived through someone literally almost kicking you to death and bending you the wrong way so that your feet touch the back of your head when they put you in a trunk of a car is funny. You are stuck on the wrong side again. And since I'm so good at living in a world where that is a joke, I have to cheer myself up pretty much every single day somehow. And I'm being recorded without knowing. And remotely questioned and vetted, apparently. They call it purgatory. But I'm surrounded by people that don't ever want me to succeed. And have practiced to make sure of it. And while I listen to them practice their lines at the Portsmouth pool, I feel like I have a jackhammer that's for a bridge in my head. And since I've been remotely threatened for about 10 years since my 30th birthday, because they wanted my identification, since it was connected to 4 presidents, I am used to remote threat. But after what had already happened, I am very, very tired. On my 30th birthday, I was told that I had 2 years to live because my hearing had been hacked by some assholes that I grew up with. In case they had been hacking the surveillance systems in our town. And I was a freak that had been part of a research project. And I liked being a freak. But I didn't like when someone got into my research, which had been congressionally funded, had started very, very painfully, but had turned into something that I thought was actually one of the most amazing things I would ever be part of. Because I was in a town of people that had all gone through their own personal hell, but they all seemed to be very good at bouncing back. Unfortunately, though, I also had gone through my own personal hell there and had a very hard time being there. It depended on the frequency, obviously. And since I had learned how to be a person while in Denver, and I had learned how to be the person that I wanted to be, I would be rejected when I went home, which I was very quickly. And since I was being attacked by some men that did something they shouldn't have, and taken something that wasn't theirs, that belonged to the UN, actually, and could get away with whatever they wanted, apparently. And I was sticking up for myself against basically a shipyard that I once called home, went slept in and trained in, and never thought that I would be afraid of them shooting me with a laser or whatever the fuck it was that was going to be back there. But instead of going forward, we went back to where I'd be in a hospital bed and they'd be passing around a toupee. And where the waitress would be afraid of someone who apparently thinks it's okay to treat the citizens of that area in a way that makes them terrified. Which is too bad, because before that, in a different line of history, it was very different and everyone seemed a lot happier. But apparently that didn't exist. I was allowed to go out into town then too. That was nice. It's weird when you're allowed to go into town without someone threatening to kill you. They really like the song Nanny Nanny Boo Boo, We're Gonna Kill You. Anyway, that's really great. But I just couldn't really back down on that one. The whole I should kill myself because they're betting on it at a bar, since the last guy they bet on killed himself in the garage next to me. And I had already done that and worked very hard on not wanting teenagers to be forced to kill themselves on the internet. And since I grew up with veterans and people who dealt with depression and flashbacks or whatever the hell it was that makes you want to put a gun in your mouth and end it, it was a kind of touchy subject. Unfortunately, my ex-boyfriend was researching PTSD after we broke up, and we wouldn't have been dating. And for some reason, he didn't accept the fact that I wasn't dead. And I didn't accept the fact that I wasn't wanting to die. As I said before, we would have been fine as long as we weren't doing that. But everyone wants to eat the dinosaur. I wanted to leave. Eating the dinosaur apparently means that you take everything that someone has. And since basically the body armor I had on to help most of the kids in that town, especially the ones with disabilities, was very old, they were eating a dinosaur. And I had gone home for the Special Olympics. So the things that were going on, they had been spying on and were messed up and had allowed things to happen that wouldn't have happened because of spying. And I became the victim of espionage, apparently. And the Patriot Act was brought up immediately, so that was ignored too. Corporate espionage is apparently something that makes you want to throw up when you get off the highway every day. But everyone said so much money had moved to the area. Apparently it was not good for me. It was probably good for spying, though. I had never talked about home. Usually I said, it's nice there. You should visit. But I didn't like sharing. I also knew that most of the things that I cared about, especially after Oswego, people would attack. And since most of the kids that I went to school with when they left the town were followed by people who are extremely against the government, or people who would do horrible things with chemicals they weren't supposed to have, or were targeted by groups like that. I didn't talk about it because we lived in a very specific space. And since in Oswego I had been targeted by a group like that, I really didn't like my life being ruined. And I didn't like other people's lives being ruined through generational damage. And it was an obsession of mine fixing that. But that's not something usually people think about a lot. I spent a lot of time in my head finally that I was allowed to have. And I lost it, and I have to say that it was really nice having for a while. When you are not allowed to have your own head space, it's really scary. But I've never wanted to control what someone thinks. I've just been the victim of it. I've also known what it's like to have someone try to stop you from thinking. So and I worked with a lot of people who had been messed with really badly. And when I heard the word pushed, when we were talking about getting pushed, fear is a really, really, really big motivator for people who have already been extremely, extremely pushed. That's why I was very protective of families, no matter who you were, in Denver. And unfortunately, getting pushed, especially if you're a teenager, was something I was also very aware of. You can see it in people's eyes. You can hear it in their voices. And you just hope that it's not happening. Because when I was younger, a man gave me acid and made me think that I was hearing voices, which I wasn't. And even though it was a horrible experience, it taught me never to believe the man in the sky was God or do what he says. And to be able to identify when I was on acid. But also, I had to go through a lot of other things. And sexual experiences had to be relearned because people are very sick. And God would never do that to someone. And at one time, I was in a group of people that wanted to support religious beliefs not being sexually abusive. And I was very, very, very supportive of that. Because instilling that kind of fear doesn't equal religious beliefs to me. It just instills fear and control, in my opinion. Which is a different kind of religion, I guess you could say. But anyway, I was taught very quickly what the headset was that we had when we grew up in the research area. Also, Secret Service ears and surveillance ears and specialized hearing and hacking that. And I was capable of telling the difference. But they would try to make you talk out loud because when I was younger, there was a gas attack in North Berwick and South Berwick that made all of us freaks talk out loud, except for me, because I was only half a freak. Anyway, I've cut my own throat while abroad to prevent it, and had my throat cut when I was younger because literally you get attacked until you die, basically, which is what's happening now. It's also a purging thing that the government does, but they don't do it while they're recording you for a sound booth in Portland or public enjoyment. And usually I don't put pictures, recordings, or anything online. Mostly I didn't put anything online at all except for something fun or nice, and I didn't put pictures of other people online without even asking them first. Mostly because I come from an area where a lot of people had that done. And because I don't like humiliating people or putting pictures that shouldn't be online. But a lot of things were hacked and then put online, apparently. And let's say you make porn for the government that attracts terrorists. And the government says it's never going to be put online again or public. But someone finds those files. That's a weird thing to have online, though, right? Especially if they're wanting to influence porn. And if it's a group of people who like to pack people in porn and are convinced that you are in porn so that they can attack you physically. I know a lot of women that were in the porn industry that were sexually destroyed, not because they were prostitutes, but just because they were in a porn. And were never prostitutes, but have almost died because of the sexual abuse that they had to live through due to the fact that they were in a porn. But that's also something that happens. Now, there's also the government coup thing. And investing in domestic violence, so someone hacking every security code that a strip club has across the country, it seems to have happened, so thank you for that. Not to mention this new STD someone they made seems to be pretty synthetic. And lots of government technology that's been stolen. Thank you. Especially the stuff that I had. Some of us have to take an oath to use certain things. And literally, you break the oath, you basically are shot. I've never broken it. But whoever is using it really likes it. That's for sure. It's kind of weird. Because if you did something like this, you would literally be shot on sight. Like without a second's, not even thought. And it's like a playroom or something. I mean, Ellery's got playroom, sure, lost its blue desk or whatever that is. And Robbie, I was afraid of Jehovah's Witnesses for most of my life. I don't know why I was afraid of him, but he went to school with me. I think he hung out with Liam. He might be the one that's contracted for me. I'm not sure, but Louise did her hair like him in my playroom. I hope he's not drinking anything like, I don't know. What's that orange drink? Sparks. Z singing about toxic ovas. She says worse than clown coffee, and I don't even know what clown coffee is. They don't stop until you die. Toxic ova. Fresh start. I don't like that helmet. It sucks when someone puts a brainwashing music behind every song you listen to. And all that vacuuming. They kept the TV on the whole time I was there, but I went to the res near her house. It's so quiet. Pete said just a tip. Oh, the res is so quiet. They have great telecommunications. But I should have got to Darien Lake. You know, amusement parks have so much energy. I wonder if they're like nuclear power plants and mask something. I always wondered that. So afraid of her neighbor when she moved in. I didn't know why. But they have Ellery's room at her house. I also didn't know why they called it Ellery's room. I guess they're doing marketing at the bar. They have a prison basement. And the roster, I guess they had, I heard, who's next on the roster, like every day. Now, they like eavesdropping a lot. I think that's how they knew about my training, because of their spyware. And then they went tubing at this park nearby. They sold me to the Russian mob, I think, in Washington. She used to call me Achilles. I did not know that. But this guy that I'm working with right now, she used to know in college. She used to always meet Rufy at Tops at midnight. It's so weird because I never went through any of their things, but they went through everything I owned. And so I never owned anything. And then I never knew I was recorded in my room every day. So everyone knew what I was doing. And I could never figure out how they always do when I left my apartment. I couldn't even develop photos. I remember I was trying to take an art class. And the last thing I remember is a man walking up behind me in the dark room. Turns out it was the janitor. But every time I left the apartment, you cannot even imagine how frustrating it is. Not knowing why. Or how, no one will tell you. Because these people attack you every time you leave. So you stay in the library. She can't stop bugging you, she says. And Target. And Dozer the dog. The puppy dog. And then you remember every quarter you went to Canada, but you were so sick. And Sam was outside once, this guy. because you were methadoned. And someone told you to pull down Chris's top, but you would never do that because, well, you've had your body tortured so much you can't even shower without being terrified. This woman came up to me, a stranger, and said, "You were pregnant when you went to college." Just a stranger. People have come up to me and said things like that since I came back from Denver. It's so strange. And then Jamie, this girl from freshman year, is here. You know, I couldn't talk on the way home freshman year. I was in shock. She kept telling me it was my fault. And then they took me to Canada. But I never thought about any of this. She's been hanging out under a bridge drinking water with a black hat on, sewing. Hands up and spin. I just remember her yelling at me the whole ride home. But the minute I remembered something, they'd erase it. And I had to back up. They found that and erased it. And then pixels hacking and every school that I was associated with. Every single one, including Denver. Denver, Oswego, Harvard, Yale. Every single one, MIT. One by one, they all got hacked. And disappearing. Someone named Miguel gets out of jail. I don't even know who Miguel is, but some guy at a truck stop tells me he's out of jail. I don't know who that is. I fly here from Mexico City. The mouth of hell is open. All these people from the prison system are wearing my clothing. But the only thing people want to do is erase me. And well, people are running down the road and they're jumping out of planes and hitting their mark. I just have to sit here while Ryan breaks his own heart. And they look for the emergency areas. Repeating everything I've ever said. Because Gretchen said I'd be hopelessly lonely. I mean, I prefer a train with a roller skating rink. They pushed the books around her office the whole time. And when Annie said, "Can she hear me fuck?" in Gretchen's office, I could. And I guess she should have pressed F11. But I didn't understand the misdiagnosis of women. But that water cooler changer in the break room really fucked everything up. Not to mention that white 4-door car in the parking lot every day, playing a radio station I didn't understand, and following me everywhere I went. And the long gray hair. The white SUV that found me after Liam's landlord in the bathroom at a McDonald's somewhere. We're in New Mexico. Apparently everyone else got a lawyer. Everyone said it was a big deal. This guy said a criminal element in New Mexico. I was like, well, I'm about to die in a fire, so that doesn't really matter. There's a criminal element in New Mexico. But look at her phone. She's not homeless. She's not a prostitute. Nope. But I was paralyzed. About to be burned to death, so I got on a raft ride. Just keeps getting worse. Tim sent me this video of Jamie. That's a lie. But I guess I got the text. I'm talking about one email. Go to Europe and it's one text. I wonder it's French because this French tour said near the ostrich farm is an expensive French tour. I went to Montreal because they kept saying they were going to burn down Notre Dame. I found tour 1 and 2, but hazing was more important already. I tried. Every time I left, I thought someone came out of the closet. Every time I left, I had to leave anyway. And he went through every basement. What's that Nutella's for? Sam's friend John said, call me when she starts talking out loud to herself. I couldn't believe there was more. After what had just happened. There was more. From all this broken glass. More blackout New York. Yes, they're taking cabs. The one I take one in New York, the guy goes to the trunk and gets a wrench and puts it on my neck. the blue line through it. Well, I'll make pasta, I guess. But Danny asked me if I wanted when they woke me up in Denver. Last time they did this, she convinced me she had cancer, so she had my head over there. They said stage 3 from the staging would be brain cancer. I got my first EKG. Seems to be the answer to everything for them. All this programming, though. I didn't even have a Mac 9, 1. I think it goes through. Sit and spin, Backlog. Did not know that it was sit and spin. Violet. Wait, I went door to door, got my meds, and gave it to heroin addicts. Now I guess I know where that hoe tag and that hotel came from. So being up for a torture whore. That sucks. Eva doesn't want this one anymore. And who travels? Only on the lottery. I lived in Phoenix and went on Cox Wi-Fi. Rachel Robbins gave me a shot in Montreal. She seems to live there right now. I don't know about Griffin. Not really a fan of faucets, though. Oh, that casita. It's weird when you find your stuffed animals from childhood under a casita. It's a honey trap. And every row must be great for. What did you say? Number 53. Extraordinary. For plain. Those like sharp feather earrings, Megan. I wonder what would have happened if Vincent hadn't been there the first time they tried to make me have a nervous breakdown in Denver. She was the one who told me to sleep with Dane. But Becca is the one yelling paranoid delusional. And Joanna's. Let's see, I brought all my information to the strip club in New York City. I thought she had to carry on. I got back. Kept marking my car every night. Because Audrey lived with Liam and I think she likes that green room. listening to it. With a pole. Fill every window with sad, horrible things. This thing pop-up video for a fucking year. I didn't know why. Like holding a skull, I didn't know what that meant. This is a t-shirt that was at a rally after they said Google Abe Lincoln and your family will get killed. Or listen to an intercom when your neighbor gives you acid. And look at that. It really gets on my nerves, my LN. Because what happened to my L the next day? Jack's pink and yellow. No, pink and what was a honeypot programming letters? It was pink and above the crib. I could see it pink and yellow. It was always the color of Jack's programming. I almost got stuck in the honey well. And Sam and Jan had me there before. I have a crib. I was there the first time when I found the rocket. Lost Mickey Mouse. There's like 150 stuffed animals down there. Wrong angle for that laundry room for me. But it all went gray, so everything changed. 311. I am not 311. But someone tried suing under my name, so I knew it would go well because they tried to get me to set myself on fire at the entrance of the shipyard. And I wasn't suing anyone, so it really sucks when someone tries to get you to set yourself on fire because of a lawsuit you're not part of. But after Fury, that's the only way I knew. And since then, I've seen quite a few familiar people. I wish I had something to do with it then, too. Steven Nicer handed me a green bottle and told me I was going to lose my personality. I couldn't figure out how he would know that. They went through my entire brain. But the equestrian riding is sick. So is the acid they found. They found the right acid. That would go all the way back to kindergarten. It means they can adjust all of our brain chemistry in a bad way. And we won't remember. And that's the worst part of our history, I think, because it hurt all of us. So it means that is so dangerous. And they're doing it here. It's my biggest nightmare. No one's doing anything. It's the first thing. It's the whole reason we trained to go there. and brain ears. Jessica has a surgery center in her house and they took my brainstem. I didn't want to do Heathcliff again. Or have I remote? Not only be knocked out and preyed upon in a circle. Unless I made a chainmail, I had to eat all the time. Show this is a Rick Street chainmail. I'm not dying for this. And I'm not playing getting violence tonight for the rest of my life. I was in a demo by myself for too long, you think? One email, one text message. We're activated by our phones and they took them all. It's the only reason we had liquid nitrogen in the sewer main. Some of them impersonating me the whole time. Whoever has the algorithm that changes every recording, thank you so much. I can't even protect myself. And that stroke gun belongs to a prison. I haven't seen since college, but if you really hit me with it 131 times, just like you said, my nose stopped bleeding about a year ago. Usually it makes my whole face explode. And it's because you stole a box in 2002, changed the internet in the worst way possible. I know you like being half-staffed and all, but that's 2 circles, not 1, so that must be a real good break-in. Hope the creature's comfortable. Because that's not meth. And you gave my drugs, which they knew would be stolen so they can give you back up to Ralph, who now stands in our living room, in my window, instead of putting recording devices in our house all the time. And he's wearing a uniform. I was the first one to put that ass down with her in 7th grade. I don't know what it means to be seen, but he doesn't even want that to happen either. You have to join to sign out. When you're talking about getting on the boat when I was little. No, Jason played to fit the description when he was younger. And he could always make a hole into the ship from the secure unit alone. And UNH influence. Okay, we rehab again, use those sheds. Purple makes us all dumb. It's everywhere. You flashed all the phones. Hazel kept yelling at me about writing her a postcard. Matt's had a poncho on the whole time. He blew my car up after they gassed me all night. Rosie security guy. If her boyfriend makes $60,000 and is an engineer, they lived in the house before us. Like my landlord, who sold clothes on a sweet one I never knew about. Guy with the leather hat. And Caleb told Adam to take his number out of my phone. We're into Franconia and I didn't even know where I was going. Matt's want to talk about stimming. I don't even know what it is. And let's see, I couldn't walk out of their wedding, but when John released the internet, it was a Trump is a cunt photo. Yeah. Wonder if you can help me more at their wedding. We remain good friends. V's aunt says I'm an abomination of to burn the fires of hell. She's gonna burn our house down again. And her dad was there when Uncle David died. So we talked about in the basement all night. Yeah, never again. Living room. About Jamaica, long time ago. John didn't think I lived through his brother. And Mr. Zilmark said they were setting me up to get fucked to death the minute I got home. I'm drinking that red drink in the hallway. Before they got remarried. Once you got his jacket back. He liked my surveillance channel a lot. Mr. Pilkey was right, they were funeral flowers. Just missed the funeral plane. Well, horse in the bank named Mac. Yeah, one with a brain melter. All the bodies are floating down the river, invisible. The doctor. Why is one running around? Here at Campbell's for that pig. bigger than the usual one. Here's some of your bowl. How in? Oh, you guys got one though. Go in. Oh yeah, you walk down the street with a black jacket on, glasses. In a coffee shop. Some of that. Someone messed up my car with this. It was a little frame necklace with a ring in it. And moss behind it. That's because she was watching in Florida and I didn't know how. Ran out, what do you think? Once Miguel got out of jail. Oh, there Miguel is. Prison. You're in New York City? Oh, Kilcone. I know, because your last name isn't Kilcone. Because I was the cone. You're Polish, right? Oh yeah, they erased it a lot. Jenkins phone. A lot erased it. Oh. No, that's not true. Elijah would murder himself.